Hello, also in last video we saw how can we implement incremental load strategy in IICS mapping using mapping parameter, and for that we had created this particular mapping, okay, m underscore incremental load using mapping parameter. And if I open SQL override of my source, my SQL query is something like this. Let me copy this guy, okay, and so basically this is my SQL override query, and if you can see, this is nothing but my mapping parameter, right? And I had declared that mapping parameter in my mapping over here. Okay. Now thing is how the value get assigned. So if I run this query, definitely this query would fail because it won't recognize what this $dollar value is, right? It doesn't have a value. So basically how this value comes, or from where we assign that value. So basically we created, after creating a mapping, we also created a mapping task, right? And in mapping task, we assign parameter file name and path, right? So if I open my mapping task, so this is the corresponding mapping task. All right. So this mapping task is associated with this mapping. And if I scroll down, I had declared the parameter file path and actual parameter file name here. And this is my parameter file, right? As you can see, this is my parameter file. Okay. And as you can see here, let me copy this also. So basically this is my parameter file, and this is where I had declared that mapping parameter. Okay, so basically what will happen when I will execute the mapping task, it will read the actual parameter file, and in parameter file we had declared this value. All right, so this value will get assigned to this mapping parameter and ultimately to my source qualifier query, and it will execute this source qualifier query and it will return one record. However, whatever we did so far, that was all manual process, right? Creating a mapping parameter file itself and also assigning the value. So this value, whatever we are seeing, though that value we actually copy pasted in that parameter file after creation. Now in this video, we are going to see two things. First, creating parameter file dynamically. Okay, and second, assigning param value mapping or mapping parameter value dynamically, correct? And this is what we need in actual scenario. Like we cannot every time go ahead and create the file manually and assign the values manually. All that process should happen automatically or dynamically. Okay, now another thing is, the question is how this value came, first of all, right? On what basis we assigned that value? So this value is nothing but last successful execution date of mapping, right? So maybe two videos prior we had created these two tables, right? DW jobs and DW job runs. So basically what this DW job runs stores is, whenever we execute the mapping, it also adds another entry into this DW job runs. Okay, so if my job ran 10 times, you will find 10 entries in DW job runs. So whenever my job runs successfully, there will be an entry with last execution time, last successful execution time. So basically my mapping parameter would hold the maximum value of this particular table for that corresponding job. Okay, now instead of adding that last execution time in a separate table, what I would do is I will add that same column in DW jobs table itself. All right. So the scenario would be, whenever my job will get completed successfully, it will add an entry into this DW job runs. Also, it will update that last execution date in my DW jobs table. All right. So we can use these DW job runs for two things. One is to create the parameter file itself, and also since we are holding that last successful execution date of my corresponding mapping in this same DW job runs, I can use it to assign param value. All right, so these two things will do using this DW job source. So this DW job source would be my source. So my source would be DW jobs. Okay. And my target would be actual parameter file. So I will create a new mapping. In my new mapping, DW jobs table would be my source, and using that information I would create a parameter file. Okay, so let's what I will do, let me copy this structure. So this is my actual structure which I had created manually. I will use the same structure to make it dynamic. Okay, so let me go ahead, m underscore param file creation. Okay, I will save this mapping. I will add another expression, and my source, as I said, DW jobs. Okay, perfect. um, Now in expression, what I would do is I will create a new expression variable port v underscore param file, right? And let me consider that as 5000 string. OK, I will configure and I will fetch that. So this is my actual parameter file. What I will do now is char10 is nothing but enter, because this has to be in new line, right? All these values. Let me, so all these two has to be on same line, so right. And after that, char10, that is enter, and again 10, oops, sorry, single quote, and yeah, perfect. Now what all variable things we have? So this is my mapping name, this is fine. This is the folder name, that is also fine. This is also constant, so all these values are constant. um, then only variable part over here is this guy. Okay, so okay, and last successful execution date, correct. And I guess that's all. Let's validate. So it's valid. Let me copy this guy as a backup. Okay, and I will delete my actual parameter file, because this is where we are going to create the parameter file, right? So I will also copy the name and I will delete this guy. Now let me go add another expression. I will tell you why. So I forgot one thing. I had created just a variable port. I need to create an out port. So for out port also I will specify a value as out underscore param file, and I will assign that variable port here. Correct? Perfect. And in next expression I will discard remaining all fields, because I just need out field, right? I don't need anything else other than that. Okay, perfect. And at target, let me copy this guy. So target would be flat file target, and it should get create at runtime, and that's my static parameter file name. That is one thing. Another thing, if I go to formatting, there should not be any text qualifier, and other than that I don't need any header. Perfect. Save. Okay, this is all good, and let me run this guy. So right now I don't have any parameter file here. These are different, these are the old one. Okay, let me go ahead and create one. Perfect. And if I see, yeah, it got created, and let's compare. All right, so this is exactly what we are okay, now this value is different. Other than that, everything is same. Now why this value is different? Because this value is coming from my DW jobs table, right? 258, not this one. 258.35. 258.35. Perfect. So if I change that to something else, now if I change that to 16, that should come. So let me do one thing. Let me just close everything. But other than that, everything is correct, right? Everything is same. So the file got created successfully, and what I will do is, just to validate, I would change this date. So in DW jobs, update uh, jobs, let's say jobs, set jobs dot last successful execution date equal to get date, and so it should have 16th of February 2028. So let's try. So what I will do, I will rerun that mapping. Correct, and let's open and find out. So that has 16 February 2028. Perfect. So basically we created successfully mapping parameter, rather parameter file and parameter value dynamically now using the database table using DW jobs. Now the last thing what we had to do is, let me go ahead and create a corresponding mapping task for that. So param file creation, and what I will do, let me create the mapping task. Right, mapping task param file creation. Next, runtime environment, that's okay. Next, finish. Okay, so basically I have two mapping tasks now. One which creates the actual parameter file, and other task which uses that file. Okay, now we'll go ahead and create a task flow. Okay, what I will do is task flow mapping parameter test or validation, let's say. I will add a data task here. Now my first data task would be creation of parameter file. Okay, so a mapping task param file creation. is my why I don't see that? One moment, let me see. Empty mapping task, param file creation. Where is my param file creation mapping task? Yeah, okay. This is all fine. I'll save it. I should maybe mapping task, pa param file creation, and now I would add another data task. And now it should use that parameter file. So what was the mapping task which I had created? Empty incremental using mapping parameter. So let me go ahead. Okay. And let me search that incremental load using mapping parameter. This is the one, and I will save it. So basically what we are doing, we are created a task flow. Okay, so we have created a task flow. In that task flow, my first data task is creation of parameter file. Okay, so that parameter file will get created over here, and in my second task or second data task, it will utilize that parameter file. Okay, so if I go to, so I have on this data task, if I go ahead and open the, alright, so as you can see here, my second data task is utilize using this parameter file. Okay, this parameter file basically I am creating in my first data task. Okay, I will save this guy. I'll publish it, and just let me go ahead and validate what it is doing. So its target table is what? My target table is dim employees. What I would do is, let me just delete everything from dim employees. Truncate table dbo.dim employees, right? Okay, and in DW jobs, what I would do, set last successful execution date, I would assign that as 1900. Okay, and one last thing which we had to do is, over here there is one more thing we'll do. PostSQL will create this one. Okay, so what basically will happen now, it will create the parameter file. That parameter file would have parameter value, my mapping parameter value as 1900. So it will pull entire record set from my employees table. Okay, and it will insert that into dim employees table. Right now my dim employees table is empty, and at end of the execution it would assign the value, last successful execution value, to this. Okay, so if I rerun, it should not return because it's incremental load, right? I have added that filter. It should not insert any single record in second run to dim employee. So let's validate that. So I published it, and let's this guy, right? Let me publish it again and let's run it. Let me delete my parameter file also. Let's find out. Run. So it has created the parameter file, and 107 records around it should insert. So let's find out 107 records, and let's go ahead and first validate the parameter file. So as you can see, it has 1900, right? And that's the reason why when source qualifier query got created, it pulled all the records. Okay, now if I check in dim employees, I should have 107 records. And if I check my DW jobs, since we added the PostSQL update statement, we had added this, right? It has created, it has updated that last successful execution date. Now, so if I rerun my task flow, let me rerun, right? Now it should not, so it would update my mapping, my parameter file and mapping task value, but it will not add any record. Now it will be zero only, zero records processed. Perfect. So if I go ahead, see, it has this value, correct? And in my dim employees table, it would be only 107 records. Okay, so basically in this video now we successfully created a mapping parameter file dynamically, and also we assigned the mapping parameter value, right? The parameter value also dynamically. Okay, so thanks for watching this video, and in next video we try to add some more parameters, right? So currently we just added the mapping parameter, right? So in next video we'll see how can we parameterize even the source and the target connections. All right, so thanks for watching this video and see you in the next video.